What's up, guys? Wobbly Rick playing here. So, with all the 7 days to die functions and everything, considering how long this game has been out, I've still played this game, and one of the many reasons why I play this game is not because it's dead, it's mostly because it's just different. But I mostly play it because I really got nothing else to do. And I could say that there were other things I could do, but the realities of that being real are like slim to none. So, yeah. Right now, the cheapest ammunition I could manufacture, which is a 1-to-1 ratio, would be handgun ammunition. Until I can create that other particular item that I need, which is a chemistry table, or lab, as it's called. Mobile chemistry lab.
Just to let you folks know, the Trader Joel's will be closing soon.
The only way I can get the raw materials and necessary items for pretty much everything. Got my arrows, got that. Pipe shotgun, I'm not going to use. 7.62 ammo. Pipe machine gun. I guess I could reload that. I'm making a lot of Molotovs because I don't have too much time for certain things. Put in that right there. Got machine gun parts. I need quite a bit in order to make the AK. Once the AK is created, it'll be left like how it is. It's currently like that, and I need one more machine gun part to make an AK-47. Sadly, well, I'm just going to straight up say it. Sadly, due to ramifications of the night shift in this game being a total nightmare and feasibility for survival are rather lackluster once the sun goes down entirely. And I will tell you this, when I say it goes down the toilet, I mean it goes down the toilet. There's no ifs, no ands, no whats, no buts. When Wobbly says something's in the toilet, there's no point in trying to get it out of the toilet, because it's there for a reason. But Wobbly's going to try to loot at night and see how it turns out for him. I already got Ranger's Guide to Archery Volume 1. And while I can still make some noise, I should tear apart this car. And the next one as well. Don't ask me too many questions, but crouching is my best friend right now. Ranger's Guide to Archery 1 is necessary to figure out. I already got it. 20% more hours. There you go, you thirsty bastard. Don't ask me why I didn't ADS. Sometimes I panic. Hopefully this holds a frame to something or a mini bike chassis. No, but it does hold a little bit of other things that I need. Mm-hmm. Right, a level 2 shovel. Know exactly what I'm doing with you. If you said trash, the answer was correct. Except for I'm not scrapping it here, I'll be scrapping it back home. Could use more jars. Those things go away rather quickly. Add that to the new jar collection. Chicken soup's necessary. This is necessary. I'm not carrying any pipe-based weaponry on me. I need the cobblestone for upgrades. We'll put that away. I have that. Okay. I can leave. Oh shit, I thought that was a huge monster hanging out in that garage. Oh, you bastard. I know she's gonna go beating up on that bear, so I'm gonna let her get her ass whooped while I go sneak away around back. This wanderer sure is knowing that I'm here. There's no way this guy's conveniently walking towards my crib. That was too close. At the current status of material I have available, I am not in any position to really do much. But if I look very carefully, I can go ahead and put away these cobblestones, the oil. This can go in for sale purposes. Now I got 4 tires. Oh, that's so nice. I could probably get a car going. Yes. Wobbly will get wobbling on. Wobbly, wobbly, wop, wobble, wobble, wop. Ranger's Guide to Farting 3. How to throw your fart sounds across the county. That reminds me of that YouTube video I was watching a few days ago where this guy's like, you think nobody will notice that I farted if I cover it with my cough? And he coughed and he just ripped out a huge fart. So that was like funny. So it's just like a little bit of a question mark time for Wobbly. It's almost like chance time for me. Except for in this particular case, I'm not entirely sure what it is I'm doing. Well, I got plenty of electronics, so go ahead and remove that. Keep it at 127, 196 over here. I got one engine for a mini bike if I had the material to craft it. So, gonna sacrifice this. Take 250 of those with me. These cloth fragments, but then again, my armor, if I decide to make a new set of armor, it's probably going to cost me a little more than what I have available. But if I look it up, probably increase my pack mule status as well. Light armor can get better too. Really gotta get that pack mule going though. Ah. Too bad this isn't a mod world. Where you can trade all day. Just waiting for time to go by. I guess at this point. Should burn down this metal. Since technically I'm not sure if I intend to use that pipe shotgun anytime soon, or really ever again, I should probably melt it down. I got 3, and if I sacrifice this, it'll probably give me less than what I had originally. How much do I need for the upgraded pistol? Need 8 in order to get a decently upgraded handgun. Pistols are great. So are other based weaponry, but pistol right now is currently top dog next to my improved bow. Good for hunting, killing zombies. Uses arrows for ammunition. Hold reload for alternate ammo. Repair with a repair kit. Scrap bow for scrap bow. Scrap bow for crossbow parts. Wooden bows will help you get crossbow pieces. The basic pistol uses 9mm ammo. Repair with a repair kit. Scrap to handgun parts. And you take a look at this. A homemade automatic weapon firing 7.62 ammo. Repair with short iron pipes. Scrap to iron. You should really look at it. It's not much. A homemade firing shotgun. It's a homemade gun. Firing shotgun shells. Effective at very close range. Repairs with short iron pipes. Pipe shotgun system. Then you look at the pipe machine gun. Notice anything out of the ordinary? It looks sort of oddly weird about this pipe machine gun. If you thought grease gun and MP40, then yeah, that would basically be what it looks sort of like. Don't get me wrong, a modern day assault rifle or even a sniper rifle would be good. At least for being able to do the job. Does Wobbly plan to move away sometime soon? Yeah. Wobbly does. And when he does, he'll be gone. Maybe I'll build computers for a living and give them away for free or something. This only applies to less fortunate individuals. If you're wondering what happened to Wobbly's days of playing Dead Frontier, well, I don't know. It might be out of commission for some time. Of course, well, I guess it's already 10th, so technically their XP boosts and everything, damage boost, loot boost, all that stuff might already be gone already. So if you were playing Dead Frontier on the weekend, all the event-based boosts, loot increase, and stuff like that, stat boosters are all gone. It was nice playing it while it lasted. It was pretty good. I genuinely enjoyed it. Oh yeah, that's right. Now I remember what I was supposed to do. I'm over here charging my phone like a dummy, but I forgot to bring up chat. Oh my god. Oh, YouTube Premium with your cable plan. Go fuck yourself. Trying to advertise that trash to me. But if you get YouTube Premium, you won't get ads. Motherfucker, I do most of my own content creation, and you're telling me I won't get ads. You're still gonna have the fucking ads sitting there on fucking YouTube whether I pay for your premium or not. The only ads you're removing are the ones from the videos, or you're removing little to zero ads at all. So shut the hell up. Want your YouTube Premium, you fucking butthole. I swear to God, if people try to implant goddamn fucking ads in the human brain, I'm gonna go thermonuclear and annihilate the entire freaking East Coast. The last place people need advertisement in is in their minds. So like I tell most people, advertisements belong on a television or in a newspaper. But they don't belong anywhere near a person's body. Not on a cell phone, not on the internet, and they most certainly do not belong in a person's head. So if you're a sick fuck and you like to put advertisements on television, and then you're like, what if we can put the ads in the person's head? Someone out there, at some point, is going to get a WMD and just bomb the shit out of every satellite in space. And then you can kiss your ass goodbye on the whole telecommunications market part. The advertisement was bad before, but it's gotten way worse over the last 30 years. Even people are turning into mobilized commercial ads. And I've already had to deal with the brunt of that bullshit already. Over the last 7 days, people are like, oh, we'd like to advertise this company to you and blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, but well, who's your current provider? And I'd be like, didn't you hear me? I am broke. I don't have money. Yeah, but who's your current? Shut the fuck up. Nobody gives a shit who my current provider is, because when a nigga is broke, a nigga don't got no money, motherfucker. So what fucking price are you gonna make? What profit? Because the only thing I smell is a bad credit fucking fraud happening on the horizon. And that's a felony. Credit fraud. Then the company's going to neglect all knowledge of not knowing that you didn't have any money. And then, what happens? They demand that you pay them for the use of the equipment and for the removal of the equipment. And then what happens to you? You get fucked. Take my advice. If somebody won't fucking leave your grandparents alone about trying to sell them security cameras and all this bullshit, odds are those fucking pieces of crap are gonna break into your grandparents' home later to try to make them change their minds. That's just a fact, so, you know, I'm just letting you know. If somebody's over there telling your grandparents, oh, you need the security camera because you're old and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, those people know people, and they will have them come rob your house personally. Just so that you'd be terrified into buying a security system you never needed before. The only security system you need is a pump-action shotgun and a warning sign at the front of your house. Warning. Owner owns a gun and isn't afraid to blow your face clean off with a 12-gauge double-aught buck. That should literally be all that there is to it. Some people are like, oh, this guy's got a gun? Well, I got criminal rights. You won't have any rights if he kills you. If he or she kills you. Ain't nobody gonna come sue for them. You're the criminal who thought, oh, I could break into their home. And then you're gonna have your parents come up out of the woodwork and be like, oh, our son was mentally ill and he didn't know what he was doing. Yeah, but your son broke into somebody's house and tried to murder them in cold blood for a gun. So, in perspective, the case drops and the defendees, the home defenders, get to walk away. No punishment. That's just the reality of it. If a person is defending their property and a person breaks into their home, I don't care if the home is booby-trapped. If the person stepped on a landmine while walking into somebody's house and blew themselves up, that's not my problem. You can sit here all day and say, oh, you're just taking their side because they bribed you. But the reality is, no, I don't accept bribes. I'm just saying what it is. You broke into the house and for what? For murder? Okay, well, the fact he stepped on a bear trap and lost his leg and then fell onto another bear trap and lost his right arm is not my problem. The court hereby falls in favor of the defendants. And they're gonna be like, but we had a court of our own jury, and I'd be like, oh, you mean that? Yeah, the jury's opinion doesn't matter here. I'm the fucking judge. I literally just state that. I'm the goddamn judge. I reviewed the evidence. They went into the house to go rob the place. You can't sit here and be like, oh, I was trying to sell them some cookies and blah, blah. Yeah. You're trying to sell them some cookies, and you came in through the window, you got shot. So, how does that make any sense? A salesperson comes in, quote unquote, from the front door. Now, if you came in like some kind of hooded thief or burglar in the night, coming in through a window hoping that nothing would happen to you and you stepped on a bear trap, well, that's not my problem. That's a you problem. I get used to walking with literally like one leg and one arm missing. I just straight up be like that with that person. Get used to walking with one leg and one arm gone, bro. There ain't no justice in this world for criminals. The only justice that there should be served is in the event they're being mistreated in a local prison. But if it's outside and the criminal is committing the criminal offense, then, you know, fire away, I don't care. That reminds me of a couple of weeks ago or something like that, or was it sometime 2 months ago? I forgot when, but, you know, here at the craptastic house I stay at, you know, there was a mild issue that had occurred that not really anybody knows about. But yeah, apparently somebody, and this is like before the locks were changed. I forgot when it was, but apparently somebody came into our home using the same keys that were used to unlock the doors in our home. They used the same keys to unlock the doors. So apparently while I was running home, the keys dropped in front of a house or something like that, and the people saw it and they waited to see which house I went to. And after 2 weeks of watching to see what house that I was living in, they decided to come inside of the house one day. And this was like in the middle of the night. I was like by myself. My family was out there to like, and I quote unquote would state this, like, had family out there and they're over there, like, I think Elgin or something like that. They weren't going to be back until like maybe 2 or 3 days or some shit. And during that time, I was staying by myself. Things were a little weird or something like that because, you know, my brother and his girlfriend had taken off or whatever to go visit their moms at the same time. They invited me to go. It was nice to them or some shit. But, you know, I stayed home, stay home alone, be alone, all by myself, exist alone practically. And then as I began observing and monitoring everything, you know, they decided to use the keys that I had dropped on the road while running home from some kind of freakish thing I was running from the day before, and they decided to go ahead and use the keys to come into the house. Well, little than you know, I was fucking around with my freaking, you know, baseball bat and shit like that. I was just swinging it, hitting the freaking ball in the garage and whatever. And then I come back into the house. They open the front door. It's like 20 or 45 minutes past. It was like freaking 10:30 at night. Freaking forgot to turn on the lights to show that somebody was home and stuff like that. They thought nobody was at the house. And they decided to come inside of the house. They started the baseball bat like nearby. But the honest truth was that, you know, I didn't grab the bat. When they came into the house, they already had a gun in their hands and it was already loaded. So if they encountered somebody, they were going to shoot and kill on the way out. So I already knew that's what it was. Coming through the front door, the first thing you do is start checking where the key fits. I got incredibly lucky during that entire transaction. I'm gonna tell you, I'm very lucky during that entire transaction that transpired that day, because they came in with the keys to the house. Which, after that, I told them, yeah, there was a bit of an altercation, and they're like, how come the cameras didn't catch it? And I said, because the cameras and the camera in the front are dead. As I told them, the batteries were dead, and I've been telling you guys for 2 weeks to get the batteries to replace them. Out of the 2 weeks you went to Sam's Club to go get the batteries to replace the batteries, to go to Sam's Club to get the batteries, you go and buy everything else except the batteries. During that altercation, I literally pulled the slide back to the moron's Glock so that they couldn't shoot the gun while it was in their hands. And the slide was all the way back, and they were squeezing the trigger like a maniac, pointing it at me, squeezing the trigger, hoping that it would go off. I had the slide pushed so far back that it just didn't go. And I was stabbing them up something fierce. And pulled out my pocket knife and started stabbing like I was crazy. Point being was that was like one of the worst situations I've ever been in. I lose a house keys prior, like a day or two before or something like that. It's just like moments later, after everybody's gone, I think nobody's home. They decided to like try to clown car their way into the local area basically and try to rob a house. Like that's like a literal instance where I've defended this house before and I've stabbed up somebody fierce. Am I in possession of said firearm? I forgot what I did with it. But the honest truth is, I haven't even the slightest clue if I even remember what I did with it. I just knew that the altercation was rather nightmarish and was sort of a hassle for me. Sure, these altercations did happen. Sure, I almost lost my life. Sure, the person was squeezing the trigger like a madman with their Glock while the slide was pushed all the way back, preventing them from shooting the damn thing. Sure, they were trying to push it towards my neck. Sure, they were clawing at my face with their right hand. Sure, they were trying to stop me from stabbing them. Yes, they pushed it against the side of my freaking jawline while squeezing it while I was holding the slide back as hard as I could. Sure, the altercation resulted in a hole in our ceiling, which I later patched on the roof side portion. I found out where the bullet had exited inside of the house. And yeah, I almost got my brains blown out. So, for anybody who was wondering, yeah, I almost got my brains blown out in this house when somebody had used a pair of house keys that I lost a while back. My brother and his girlfriend were out. They were over there at his, I guess his in-laws, like I guess his wife's family's house or whatever. They were over there. Mother and stepfather were out. Like several hours later, after this is like 1 or 2 days before all this went down or something like that. I like losing my house keys or something running from some freakish thing I saw. But point is, the general description of everything that I can basically boil this down to would be, you know, there's a reason why there was a hole in the ceiling, but I never told them why. And I still haven't told them why. Well, not all of them. I told my brother and his girlfriend what happened and stuff like that, but I didn't really tell anybody else what happened because they weren't going to believe me. Then they were telling them that, and then they said, how come the cameras didn't catch it? And I straight up said, because you retards didn't replace any of the camera batteries that were in the front. I said, I was literally at the house with no cameras, no cell phone, and not even the keys to the house, which you guys simply refused to leave me so that I could lock the door. So instead I stayed at home, ended up dealing with a home invasion. I almost got my brains blown out with a Glock. I stabbed up somebody fierce, pretty much in my house. They ran for their life. The gun was left behind. I forgot what I did with it. I don't even remember what happened to it, other than the fact that a single round went off. And then they were just gone. But I remember a few weeks later they came up to me asking me for the gun. I told them I'm not giving it back to you because I don't even remember what I did with it. And I said, you should consider yourself lucky anyways because I don't want to see you around here. I just told them how it is. Like, I didn't want to see them around here. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, since then, that day, I told them I don't want to ever see them around here, nearby where I live, my neighborhood, or anything. They haven't been around. But who the hell comes back to a house after a robbery and asks for the firearm? Like you're gonna get it back. Motherfucker, I already know what's gonna happen. As soon as you get the gun back, you're just gonna point it right at me and try to rob the house again. I'm not an idiot. I wasn't born yesterday, man. This is something that I dealt with, and it was just like uber weird. I've seen a lot of weird guns before in my life, but I've never seen ones that look like Glock or pretty much mimic the design of it. But point being was, I was having my brains blown the hell out during the altercation. I'm still here. My family wondered where that hole in the ceiling came from, and the truth was, that's where the bullet went through, and then it went through the roof. Fortunately, whenever my brother Johnny was staying here, that there were still some shingles left behind that were brand new and some tar he left. So all I did was go on the roof and look for the exit hole. So if you're wondering, yeah, it took me about an hour and a half to find the exit hole on the roof. Because, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, when you look at how a bullet flies through a ceiling, it changes trajectory quite a lot. Especially if it goes through a wooden beam. But yeah, the bullet did exit the roof, but it didn't go through the shingles, surprisingly enough. Surprise, surprise, didn't go through the shingles. But I still had to lift them up anyways and then relayer it with tar and then look at the hole of where it was at and then put tar over that. I used some duct tape and a small square cutout of shingles that I had taken out using a razor blade, cut it, and I put it on the inside of the house of the interior to create sort of like a patch hole or whatever. It was a bit of work. I also had to use the stupid refrigerator that they had. Was the refrigerator in there at the time? Yeah, it was in there. Was it? No, it wasn't. I had to use something in order to get into the attic, and I think they still had a ladder in there. It's really hard to remember all the details, but it's just like, you really wonder about life, and then you stop wondering when you realize that people don't give a shit about you if you live or die, so, you know, your best options are to just completely disregard their existence as a whole. Take a hike, you ugly skank. No, you can take a hike. Turd. That's some of the things that I don't like to deal with in this game, is that you end up with real turd burglars and they just randomly appear. But yeah, back to my stupid thing that I was talking about. The point was, the fight was really awkward. The guy literally got into the house, clown card, friends bailed on him, and tried to blow my damn brains out. Did Wobbly survive? Yes, Wobbly did survive. Does Wobbly remember it like it's a nightmare that never stops playing? Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that would keep you up at night wondering if that bastard would ever come back. Since the last time I had family living here, or I guess my brother staying here, that would probably be the last time I ever really paid attention to really anything that ever occurred. But yeah, if you're wondering, does Wobbly like living the life he lives? Yeah, a little bit. Does Wobbly want to go through another terrible thing like that again? The answer is no. It's just, you really count your blessings at times, and then at other times you just don't. And these are things that we do ask ourselves, is what's worth it and what isn't worth it. Is home invasion a good thing? The answer is no. Is committing a felony offense and then assuming that nobody will ever know? Well, if you kill somebody or they find out later that you murdered somebody, it's likely the people you're with are going to throw you under the bus. The police won't suspect him of anything. All they have to say is that they saw you walking towards that address of that particular house, and that you were walking into the breezeway, and all they have to say is that they saw you, but you thought nothing of it. All I have to say is make up a story and be like, oh, you were this and you were that, and then just walk away, and, you know, they get away scot-free. And then you're going to be sitting there in the back of the paddy wagon going to prison. And what's that? Huh? You're in a room with a guy named Peaches? I can't hear you, man. I keep hearing, it sounds like a grown-ass man screaming in the background. What are you saying? You dropped the soap. Is that why all those guys are making those loud noises? And whistling? Oh my god. But the point being is, it's just one of many things that I encountered in life as criminals. Do they have rights? And these are things that cross a lot of people's mind. Does a criminal have human rights? Yes, they have human rights and intellectual rights. However, if they're committing a felony offense or committing a crime that is life-threatening towards other people, then those rights come into question. I forgot to turn up. But yeah, it's just like, there's like both a good and bad thing about it. It says, you know what to do. Turn into a first-rate campfire. Nah. What you do with this is that you throw them at zombies. Now where's the nearest zombie? So I could demonstrate the stupidity behind it. Stupendous. But yeah. Just a part of Wobbly's existence. Don't ask Wobbly. Ask yourself. Now that I think about it, I have noticed there has been a bit of feral activity going on. They're kind of just lasering their way here to my house. I don't really think too much of that now that I think about it. Okay, now back to what I was saying. Point being of the lesson in today's day, I guess, would be stay out of trouble and don't lose the house keys. That would literally be the entirety of today's lesson. Stay out of trouble. Don't lose your house keys. Because once they're lost, you might end up in my situation. And it's not a pretty one. This is taken from Wobbly's personal experience handbook. Some things in life are not worth finding out. And if you do try to find out what it's like to get into a fight with somebody who's armed and dangerous, don't blame Wobbly if things don't work out your way. You might not get lucky. You might not get as lucky as I did. In fact, you might not get lucky at all. People that might break into your house might very well just stay in a group instead of running like hell when they realize somebody's alive inside of the house and walking around. But people who have a conscience about what they're doing There are people in this world who have a conscience about what they're doing, believe me. Some people say that criminals are cold and heartless people, but there are people in the universe who do think about it. If they break into a house or they use the keys that they stole to get into their house. Either way, whether it's stolen keys or something like that, the fact that a person studies your routines and whether or not you're like there or not to see if you're home and stuff like that, people who study your whereabouts and everything, whenever it comes to like if you're home or not, it's just like a lot of people are very weird about it, but people are very weary of people like that because you never know what'll come out of them or what'll arise all of a sudden. Now, there are people in the world that I have met who ask me, why do I collect data for? And the truth is, I've been collecting data since, like, the whole thing in time in Iraq and stuff like that. I've been collecting data since the whole Iraq war thing that they were letting people know about. The whole thing, stirring it about troops and stuff like that. And during those times, I was collecting data based on tank survivability and stuff like that. I had plenty of friends who were living over there or were actually going over there abroad for a school in the more richer side of the part of the world until things kind of went haywire. But yeah, this doesn't really have too much to do in relations with the story where I almost got my brains blown out inside of my house when somebody decided to use the lost house keys like a while back when I lost some. But point was, these people spent their time studying the schedule of the individuals inside of the house. And they targeted the house when they thought nobody was there, only to find out that somebody was there. One of the individuals was packing heat, and as a result, well, I almost lost my life. A hole was blasted into the ceiling, which people thought wasn't there before, or was created recently. Well, the reality behind that is that that's where my brains almost got painted onto the ceiling. So if you're wondering, for anybody who's actually lived here inside of this house, why there was a hole right there, is because that's where my brains would have been splattered all over. Not an enjoyable thing to be fighting for life. Crazy part was that, I think at that time my neighbors was still the guy who was from the Army, National Guard or whatever, and he still lived next door, but I guess they weren't there that time. I think him and his wife had taken off to go eat dinner or something like that with the family or whomever they were going to go meet. I don't think they were there. I just remember him asking me, hey man, you okay? Because I was just sitting out front. In the middle of the night, I was sitting out front in the dark. Remember after that whole thing, I just sat outside in the front. So you're covered in sweat, like you look like you've seen a ghost or something. I remember him telling me that. I told him, if I told you what happened, you wouldn't believe it. And he's like, try me. I said, somebody used the house keys I lost 2 or 3 days ago, and they used it to get into the house. And they were going to rob the place, but I guess they didn't know that there was still somebody inside the house. And when they came to rob the joint and found out somebody was still here, the friends that that person had taken off running because somebody was still living in the house. But they themselves, and I told them, like, I was like explaining to him, going real slow about it, and I was like, I was literally fighting for my life. And he's like, so what happened? I said, that's the crazy part. Like, out of everyone in the neighborhood, dude, the neighbors on the right side of my home weren't home because they were doing something as a whole family somewhere. So they weren't home. It was like completely empty for like 2 or 3 houses down on either side of the neighborhood. The only people that were there were the Korean people. And for some reason, they didn't call the police. Even after the loud gunshot and then the hole in the roof that happened. And for some reason, the Korean people didn't call the police. They just looked out their window trying to see where the sound came from. They see somebody running out of my house, like thunder and lightning struck and they were about to shit themselves or something like that. But they didn't come outside. They didn't call the police. Nothing.
Trader Joel's is now open.
So, in perspective, what I learned about those neighbors is that they wouldn't save your life or even call the police to get you some help. It kind of showed me how some people value people's lives based on ethnicity or ideals. And I didn't really have a problem with that family.
If you are here to buy, I've got the best selection of medicine in the wasteland.
Out of most humans, I kind of just bust my ass and stuff. I don't expect money and stuff. When people say thank you and stuff like that, and I will tell you this, some individuals, when they try to be like, oh, they're thankful that you helped them out or whatever, you can tell when an individual is not truly genuine about it. And, like, you just get that feeling that the person in front of you is not being genuine about it. And that's something that I've had to deal with for some time, is the generosity and just genuinely, like, how genuine a person was about being thankful about something. I don't blame people if they're not thankful that, you know, people look out for them. Like, I'm not really too keen on being hung up on that in life. And I kind of just move on with that kind of particular business. But, you know, it does genuinely just make me think and stuff that, you know,
Come back and see me sometime.
your neighbors and crap, you know, the least you could have did was call the cops. After hearing a gunshot and then seeing somebody sprinting out of someone's home. But point being was, I had stabbed up somebody something fierce. And it was like an altercation. Like, and some people, whenever they have altercations like that, to them it feels like a lifetime of struggling. But the amount of time that I actually allotted during that struggling from the front door to, like, into the interior of the home was just genuinely weird. Under the context, I'm not disappointed, nor am I angry, or am I sad about the situation. I mean, something eventually is going to kill you, and that's a literal known fact. You're either going to die from disease, or one of the days you're going to be walking down the street or something, or taking a shower in your bathtub. You're going to drop the soap bar, and you're going to slip on that thing and hit your head on a faucet or some shit like that. You know, people die of ridiculous things all the time on the planet. It's just due to misfortune. But what I'm getting at is, you know, it's like super weird. I wouldn't say that I'm gonna be all religious and about Jesus after having a near-death experience, or I guess in this case would be somebody trying to murder me in my own home so that they could rob it. But point being is, I'm not gonna be like some people and turn to God all of a sudden because they nearly die. It's like this. If a person turns to God just because they had a near-death experience, they're doing it for all the wrong reasons. And that's something that I've even told people that are even a part of my own family. They're like, don't you believe in God and stuff like that? And I told them straight up, even if I were to have a near-death experience, for me to run away and start turning to Jesus Christ would make me a hypocrite. And I said, you know what that means? And they're like, what? It means that I'm not a good person because I waited for something horrible to happen to finally have some faith. A person must lead themselves by themselves without the influence of others to have faith in something. If they waited for the worst case scenario to happen in order to have some form of faith, then that means they never had any to begin with, which means they never intended to have any. A person's faith must be genuine, meaning they must have a genuine interest in the ideal function. So there shouldn't really be any reason why a person should have that ideal. That, oh, I almost got killed last week, I should go to church. Because then it means you're only going to church because you want to be saved. Because you didn't believe, but because somebody tried to murder you, You're going to give up all your ideals and functions because of that. That would be going to something for the wrong reasons. A person must willingly go without the need or aid or assistance of another individual. Rough translation means that another person's actions shouldn't influence you into believing in something simply because they almost took your life. The same thing if you survive a hurricane or survive a terrible tsunami. You must already have an interest in the subject to really be willing to, like, be involved with it. Otherwise, running towards it because something horrible happened to you is pretty much bottom line. Well, in my book would be bottom line unacceptable, because then that means you only believe simply because you want to save yourself. So I always tell people, interest must come from within and from within the heart. Otherwise, there's no point in having a religious ideal or belief about something. Now, I'm not going to sit here and preach to you about the Bible because I'm not all about that stuff either myself. I just know that there's a higher collective that does exist. However, this higher collective does not own everything. A relative of mine told me about how at higher collective they feel like this higher collective owns everything. But no one is truly owner of everything, or anything at all. What we have in our possession now cannot go with us in the next life. So we never really truly own what we have. We are merely borrowing it. People try to solidify the ideas of intellectual property rights only when you are alive. And this is something that I will say. This applies to people who don't know too much about it. But I'll say it like how somebody from a church would say it. Only when you are alive, my children, you have the ability to know of such ideals. So the rough translation is, only when you're alive you have the right to claim such ideals. But in the eyes of reality, because you cannot take it with you in reality, like in the eyes of reality, you cannot take it with you beyond death. So therefore, while you're alive, you are the owner of it. But at the end of the day, when your time comes, it cannot come with you. So therefore, you are merely just borrowing it. I don't want to get all religiously sentimental with some people, because some people do take offense with the ideas of religion. There are those of you who are out there, and they go by a very specified name. They're called atheists. They don't believe, but they're more of along the groups of must see to believe. And some people that I've known who are atheists are actually good people. So, atheists aren't the incarnation of the devil. They're not the ultimate sin. They're just regular people who just want to live more on the free side and not have something hanging over them like it's a... How would I put it? They don't want something lingering over them like a landlord or something like that. And that's the definition of what it is. Now, for anybody who doesn't understand functionalities and systems of religious ideals, I'll just explain it to you like this. Having religion in your life is a very tedious task, but it's also timing that plays a lot of the role into it. So it's a very tedious task to be in religious ideals and functions. It requires studying and extensive knowledge over something that the average person wouldn't know. The further you are into the religion, the deeper you go. However, you need to remember that the religious ideals of others are merely only a perceptual portrayal of what they believe in. So, with that being stated, is that anything could change at any time. So, one minute it means one thing, the next minute it's an entirely different thing. And there's a lot of perceptive doubts, ideals, changes, and switches of what means what. How does this incur to that? And it's just like, and I don't want to be like I'm the guy who's talking crap about it or something like that, but it's just like very, very, very tedious. Because the only way to truly be inept with it and to be connected to it entirely as a whole would be to have it constantly updating like a data bank and have the live fresh feed of data of what it means and the new perceptions of how they see the ideals of this such ideological function. So with that being stated, it's like in order for you to really be inept with the whole thing and know what you're doing and know it front to back like the back of your hand, know it like how you can count everything and all your pinky toes, move all your toes and everything one at a time, kind of like it's what it is. I could sit here and be like, one thing is another or whatever, but what I'm getting at is that it just genuinely breaks down to like the individual at the end of the day. Just because you have a near-death experience doesn't mean run to religion, because religion is separate from what they say is the house of God. However, the house of God is actually a part of religion, which religion itself would be the entire Vatican. So, with that being stated, for anybody who likes to defend the Vatican, I'm sorry, but the very extremely questionable actions of the general public who reside in said location or association with the Vatican are under extreme questionable means, and in by no way acceptable in my eyes. Now, some people would be like, oh, well, who cares what you think? Your children do, because they might be victims of said people. So if your kid doesn't like going to church or doesn't want nothing to do with it, look a little further into it, because you never really know. A bunch of goddamn weirdos and that shit. I'll tell you that much. There are good people amongst them. There's just not a lot of good people. So, if your kid's always telling you they don't want to go, and then they clamor up and they bite their tongue whenever they're trying to tell you why they don't want to go, and you're over here whooping their ass for no damn reason why they don't want to go to church or some shit. You never know. Maybe a deacon or a pastor or somebody in there is molesting them or beating them up. They could be getting molested in the church, or they could be getting beat up by some freaking kid or something like that in church. You never really know. So, not letting your kid go there, it's probably a better way of living a life. Now, if I ever got married and my wife was like, oh, our daughter is going to church, I'd be like, haha, yeah, right. Our daughter can go to digital church. She'll watch it every Sunday on the computer. And if she says, and why that way? And I'd be like, straight up, I'm not running the risk of my kid going to church and then coming back pregnant. I said, I think about life. And I'd be like, I think about life. And I said, I'd rather have my kid look at it at the computer rather than to freaking go to the physical place if she wanted to go to church. But I could also tell her straight up, if you want religious ideals, stay away from religion. If you want to know about something or you want to believe in the Word of God, then I'll give you a Bible. And I'll likely give her the one that my father gave to me. I'd be like, you need to take care of this book, because there's only one of them, and I only had one father. Because you only get one thing, and I intend to keep that book in good condition. I really do honestly intend to keep that book in decent condition, so that way it doesn't fall apart. And it's not that I value the ideals that are behind it. It's because that's all I'm going to have to remember my father, besides whatever else he leaves for me. So, in perspective, I intend to keep it in decent condition, those items. There were some other things in life that were given to me but some of my relatives stole them whenever I moved out and went to go live with him again. They stole the property and pretty much traded it for crack cocaine. I got some of it back, but not all of it. And I'll simply state this. Their drug problem costed me quite a bit of property that my father gave me that was like a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and I'll never get it back. The one thing I did manage to get back was the watch after I beat up the drug dealer who had it. I demoralized a grown man. That's basically what I'm going to say right here. I demoralized him. And then I told him if he wanted his money back, he'll have to beat it out of my relatives who sold it to him. I said, I don't care if you hospitalize him. He was like, you'd really be that cruel to your own family? And I said, when it comes to stuff that I cannot replace, I don't care if they live or die. And that was how I told it to him. The look on his face was the look of a man who was absolutely either astonished or shocked that somebody wouldn't care. But it is what it is. Family steals from you and they take away something that cannot be replaced. You know, you gotta make a decision in life. But yeah. It's just like one of many things in life that I've had to deal with. You know, there's a saying back in the day, who needs enemies when you got family like that? And that is true. Who needs enemies when your own family will rob you? A literal fact for anybody who's actually wondering. Who needs enemies when your own family's gonna rob you? Now, what was I saying? Oh yeah, and that was like just the whole breakdown of it. But that is something I did say when I was younger. Who needs family? Like, who needs, you know, who needs enemies when you got family like this? I had iterated that because it was true. Who would need enemies when your own family would rob you? So, you know, if your own family's stealing from you and stuff like that, and they don't care if it's your intellectual property or if you're the owner of it, stuff like that, you should probably stop giving a crap about them. It's like I told one of my friends, he said, my own family freaking robbed me, and I told him, well, here's something you should do. Don't do for them, do for you. He's like, are you willing to hold my stuff for me? I'm just like, why would you need me to hold your things? He's like, because if I know if I leave it inside the house, it won't be there tomorrow. Because one friend of mine's family had tenacity to take everything that he owned and throw it into a pawn shop while he was at school, leaving him with nothing. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just like losing like not like losing my mind. It's more like my brain's sort of like timing out for a minute. So if you're wondering what it is, it's an issue of language perceptors. Just gotta get some more new parts. But yeah, point being is, you know, a friend of mine's family would always rob him. It's like one of many things that I just felt bad about for him. And it just genuinely makes me think about my own life. My family used to rob me all the time, except for on one occasion I got even and I ended up beating them up senseless while they were tripping out on their drug high. Another person in my brothers, like another person in one of my family members and stuff like that, they were from one of my brother's side of the family. You know, he would always talk crap to me, and I told him I was going to beat him up one of these days, and he wasn't going to see it coming. Well, one of these days I beat him up while he was outside. You know, some people are just like, you know, oh, yeah, you got all that, you're going to do it whenever they're not 100%. And be like, it doesn't matter if you're sober or not sober. Like, none of that matters to me, whether if you're sober or not. The point was that I said I was going to do something, and I set out to go do it. I'm not going to be like, oh, hold on, I can't get up. I can't get up. Nobody's going to stop a boxing match because you couldn't get off the freaking boxing mat you're on, you know, on the stage. Nobody's going to stop the match. It's going to keep going. Of course, the referee is going to try to get between you because there are some laws about letting a person wail on you while you're sitting there on the floor. Because that is something in boxing that does get people disqualified in fighting. But what I'm getting at is that, you know, I've pretty much wailed on people. I don't think my brother realizes this, but I just got a text from him. I will likely never be able to work inside of the company ever again in my entire life. So I could sit here and reapply and reapply and reapply, but it's not gonna happen. Okay? It's not gonna happen, dude. I turned down Fino and a steak dinner, and that's kind of what happened. I could sit here and be like, yeah, man, I'll do that, but the honest truth is that it ain't happening, bro. I'm not gonna reapply for Tesla anyways. According to data statistics, those vehicles might get banned entirely from the state. Vehicles have been catching fire and they're raging out of, like, basically they catch fire and they're raging out of control. So from one person to another, man, I'm not gonna reapply. I know that you want me to work there and stuff because then it'll make it more functional for the individuals to have somewhere to work, and it's a good thing that a good place to work at if you want to work at the same place. But the rule simply doesn't apply to me. But yeah, it's not that I don't want to work there, bro. It's that I will not be able to work there again. but I appreciate the idea. Basically, I appreciate the enthusiasm. I appreciate my oldest relative's enthusiasm to want to get me to get working with him at the company he works for, which is my previous job over at Tesla Gigafactory, but unfortunately I'm not going to reapply. Sorry, bro. I already reapplied last month and I haven't heard anything back, so it's not happening. This Wobbly could dream of a better future, but that isn't happening. I dreamed of a good life, but yeah, I pretty much turned down somebody there. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm a no rehire person as well. I turned down one of the supervisors or whatever whenever they were working there for a dinner. They're wrong. They're a pretty good looking individual. But because I work in a professional setting, I'm unable to really perceive the world like that. I do appreciate their offer though. I do appreciate my brother's offer telling me to reapply, but there's no reason to reapply. I already tried last month. And again this month. I'm just not going to waste my time no more. Because my ex is the one who told me to reapply this month. This fucker just tell me, fuck you? Motherfucker Bruno just told me, fuck you, because I'm going to be pissed. Yeah, other than that, it's not something I really want to get too much detail with. You know, I got family that wants me to, like, make it in this world, wants me to have something. And I understand. It's family. Family wants to help family. My relative thinks that they'll take me in with this bunch. They didn't take me in with the last bunch, so... yeah, and I'm probably never going to be working there again. Personally, don't want to. The amount of harassment I received while working there was rather ridiculous. I wouldn't recommend working at the Gigafactory, mostly because the business might get shut down due to state legislative functions. And they probably won't even be able to drive another electric car around the state of Texas for as long as you can live. Because the batteries are catching fire and the vehicles are malfunctioning. And the fire department can't put them down. You know, the fires. So, it's a bit of a gray area right now. I might as well just text him back. Already reapplied last month and reapplied this month. And I got nothing, bro. So I'm just gonna chill. I appreciate him trying to get me somewheres in life. But the truth is, one way or another, I'm gonna be a wobbly in a cardboard box. And yes, I do intend to call it Fort Wobbly. Hopefully by then I'll have this wobbly costume probably already finished up and going. Actually, the Mecha Wobbly suit, I have to hide that one into several parts and pieces and separate a lot of the electronics to prevent people from getting a hold of it. And using advanced experimental technology, including kinetic dynamo systems, to their advantage. The Mecha Wobbly suit is only designed to combat extremely dangerous threats. I wouldn't recommend trying to use it for anything else because odds are, well, it ain't gonna end too pretty for you. You have absolutely zero experience in understanding how a kinetic dynamo or even freaking, like, and this is just like out of the ordinary stuff for people who don't know how it is. Like, if you don't know how half the things that are on board work, you could tear apart your whole body in a matter of seconds. So if you're hoping for it to be just like playing around with power armor or stuff like that, because essentially that's what it is, it's power armor. Power is a power source. When the power source dies and you're still inside of the fucking suit, you're probably going to be trapped into it until somebody can release the hatch from the back. And if you're stuck somewhere where nobody can find you, well, you're going to starve to death there. Can't guarantee that somebody won't come along and be like, oh look, it's an idiot in a suit, and start whizzing on you. What did I say? That's kind of what I wanted to get at. I can't guarantee everything. This is what it is. I genuinely can't guarantee everything. As for my relatives who think that I can get a job, it's going to be a very long time before I can even get another job. So for those of you who are hoping that I'd be able to land another career opportunity sometime this year, unfortunately it's not in the cards. I've even applied for McDonald's. For anyone who's wondering, and just about anybody can get into McDonald's. But in order to get into McDonald's, you still need 3 references. Like, I even told them, like, I'm sorry, you need me to give you 3 references to work at a McDonald's? And I remember telling somebody that back in 2016. They're like, yes, you need 3 references to work at McDonald's. And I said, why would I need 3 references for? They'd be like, this is just to show that you at least know somebody who works here. And I said, I'm sorry, so you're going by based off if you know this person. Like, yeah, because then if they can vouch for you, then that means they know who you are. It just means the workers will last longer. And I said, no, that's not what that means. It just means you don't want to hire people that you don't know, even if they live right across the street. Which means you're a stuck-up business that's still stuck in some ridiculous function. So, with you in charge, the company was sure to lose money. I remember telling that lady who worked over there that. I was like, yeah, with you in charge, the company's sure to lose money. Is this loser pretending to be dead on the floor over there? So we got another airdrop way over there in distance. You can see the smoke. When we're done with this, we're done collecting our material from Jen. No relative wants to help. I know they mean well, but the likelihood of me still living here is just zero. Like, I'll even tell them, I know you mean well, bro, but that just ain't happening, me and that company. When I got hired there, I thought my troubles were finally over, but as it turns out, they weren't. Working there has only taught me that I made a horrible mistake working for that idiot in his shitty company. There are too many assholes working there who don't give a shit. And there's just one too many people who are really racist about job positions and who deserves the right to have power in the company. And with shitty ideals like those, you don't really need enemies when your own bosses are the enemies. It's like playing The Legend of Zelda. Is that a fucking feral? No, that's half a feral. But yeah, I would not recommend working at that dump for your own mental health. I know some people that I've known who, you know, struggle and stuff like that with life and they want to find a good job, you know. I tell them straight up, I hate working there, but the pay was good. But it doesn't really justify the shitty behavior you get from others. Right now, the whole company is still in a total race war factor. So if you want to deal with a bunch of racists, I guess work for Tesla. You don't get any more racist than that. Of course, Elon Musk is going to be like, oh, you don't know that. You don't work for our company. Our company is diverse and it has changed. And I said, no, your company's about like a radical leftist as a terrorist group. And yeah, that's about it. And your company is about as equivalent as a terror group. So there's absolutely nothing that separates him from terrorists. At least his company, that is. So much bullshit going on in that company. I don't even want nothing to do with it. Sometimes my brother says, you know, like, and this is just like one of my relatives, because I got like more than one person that I know that works there. Like, man, sometimes you don't even know, man. Like, sometimes I just don't even want to go in. And I said, well, you work there, it's the job you decided to have, you just gotta deal with it. I said, you're just gonna have to power through, man. I said, because it's either that or have nothing at all going for you, and then what's worse, you You might not have a roof over your head. Then what? You lost everything, you got thrown the fuck out, and you got nothing going for you. You know, that's like one of the biggest things I do point out with family is like, you know, I know you don't like where you work, but I mean, you have an option, and the options are really slim. That's like a fact. I could sit here and go on and on, but it's just, it all really just depends on a lot of factors. Yeah, where the hell those handlebars go or whatever? I went in there, this went in there. Okay, thank God it's not inside of there, because I'd be pissed off if it was in there, because then that means I just melted down a bike. Mechanical parts, don't I? Yeah, I got everything. One mechanical part, bicycle handlebars, bicycle chassis, and 2 wheels. I knew eventually I was going to create a bike, so, you know, that works out. I think I've been doing this for like an hour or so. I would play other games, but lately I've been having so much bad luck that it's not worth playing some games. I've been playing War Thunder as of late, but it's really turned out pretty bad. So I guess this is where I'm going to take a look at the current timestamp and where I'm at. And it looks like I've been going for an hour and 32 minutes. I'll go ahead and save it. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in to Wobbly. And, yeah. We'll go ahead and call it quits right here. Thanks for tuning in to Wobbly Rick. I'm very thankful that you came by, if anybody left any likes, which probably didn't. Thanks for coming in. I need to get something to eat or I need to do something. Oh, you guys have a great night. Probably might go to sleep.